Hello, Detroit Lion fans. I'm your host, Barry Schumer, for the podcast Detroit Lions Tortured Fans. And this is our third podcast at this point. And let's start with the incredible news about Tarian Arnold, our first round draft pick 3 years ago, our starting cornerback who's been arrested for kidnapping. Incredible. I don't understand how professional athletes with this dream life and all the money they make can do so many things to screw up that dream of theirs. But this is a serious criminal charge he's facing, and my guess is he's probably not going to play the whole year based on a Lions suspension and possibly the NFL suspending him. And who knows what's going to happen with the criminal process. If he's found guilty, he could do some serious time in prison. It's going to hurt the team, hurt the defense for sure. And then, of course, we've had one of our draft picks already out for the year with a knee tear. Kendrick Law, the speedy receiver from Kentucky who played 3 years in Alabama. Please tell me we're not going to go through this again with all the injuries like we've had the last 2 years. But there we go. First guy down already, very early before training camp. So I want to introduce you to a friend of mine here for tonight's podcast. Let me show you my friend. This is my friend Jinxy. And there's a great story that goes along with Jinxy. You see his lion helmet on the side, number 85. Looks like a mean, tough little guy, doesn't he? Well, I got him probably about 15 years ago. I got a call from a friend, an avid Lion fan who I worked with, and he was so pissed off about a brutal loss the Lions had that he said, Barry, come take all my Lions paraphernalia. I'm done with them. I'm done with them. Come take whatever you want. And the best thing I got was this little guy, Jinxy, okay? And I named him Jinxy because of how the Lions, in a lot of ways, the last 69 years now, have been a jinxed and cursed organization. We know all the stories about Bobby Lane and the curse of Bobby Lane that he first put on for 50 years and then extended it to 100 years after he was pissed off that we traded him to Pittsburgh. We also know about 4 years ago, we had the big ceremony in the end zone at Ford Field with Peyton Manning and the actor Jeff Daniels from Michigan, with a big bathtub, and they filled it with alcohol because Bobby Lane really loved to drink. And they said some spiritual things, and supposedly that was the end of the curse. At least we hoped. Now, clearly, since Dan Campbell, things are a whole lot better, and Lion fans have a lot of hope for the future. But I don't know. Immediately, Kendrick Law is injured. Tarian Arnold is in jail. Let's see what happens. I hope the curse is over. But, you know, when you're coming up on 70 years next year to our last championship in 57 when the Lions beat the Cleveland Browns, fans, we are only 30 years away from reaching the Chicago Cubs, who went 100 years without winning a World Series. So let's pray to God we don't get there. But we'll see. So let me tell you a little bit why I call this a jinxed organization. Okay, we've had our share of terrible, horrendous things happen to our players and our coaches, and I'll give you a few examples, right? The most dramatic and horrible, horrifying thing was the death of Chuck Hughes in 1971. I was at that game. That was 2 days before I turned 16 years old. It was in Tiger Stadium. I remember him laying on the ground, Dick Butkus running up and waving to medical people something was seriously wrong. When I got home that day, we heard the news that Chuck Hughes had died, you know, right on the field. The only NFL player to ever die on the field. You know, he had an undiagnosed heart problem, and it wasn't from a hit. It was just the guy had a serious medical issue. And that was just a horrible thing to go through. Number two, Eric Andelsack, our great offensive lineman. What happens to him, he's working on his lawn one day, I forget what state he lived in, and some truck driver fell asleep and ran him over and killed him. Obviously, that hurt the team because he was a great offensive lineman. What a tragedy for him and his family. But that's pretty bad luck to be working on your lawn and get hit by a truck. Number three, Mike Utley, we know that he was paralyzed, and that was a very sad day in Lions history. He still has a great battle. I know he's a foundation to help people with spinal cord injuries. But that was terrible. I've told people that I'm surprised more people aren't paralyzed or killed based on the speed and the vicious hits these guys take. Number four, Reggie Brown. I was at that game too. I believe it was in 1997. It's the same game against the Jets that Barry Sanders got over 2,000 yards. One of only a handful of people. I think it's only three that have ever gone over 2,000 yards rushing in a season. And Reggie Brown goes down with a very serious medical crisis. I remember that hearing a few days later that the doctor saved his life. They thought he was going to die on the field. And he obviously had to retire from football at that point. But I almost saw a second NFL player die right in front of me on a football field. It was a crazy game because on one hand the stadium was completely quiet because we knew it was a very serious medical issue. On the other hand, after that, Barry Sanders breaks over 2,000 yards, and that win got the Lions into the playoffs. So it's a very strange game of highs and lows. And the last one, we had a coach, Coach McCafferty. I think it was Don McCafferty, who died during training camp. I forget the year, but it was a long time ago. And obviously they had to scramble to, get ready for the season when their head coach died. But they've had their share of really bad misfortune and pretty bad luck. And that's why I call my new little friend Jinxy. Now, on these podcasts, me and Jinxy might have some conversations, if you will. I'm going to tell him, hey, your Lions have caused us a lot of heartache. And we're going to have to see what Jinxy says about that because I expect him to defend his team and defend Coach Campbell. And it could be interesting. We'll see how that goes. Tonight in this podcast, I'm going to continue giving you my top I don't believe it moments, my top tortured moments as a Lions fan personally, while I get to the point where I hear from you. But again, plenty to go around. It's not something that is just a few plays. I'm going to give you tonight number 9, 8, and 7 backwards. And let's start out with number 9. I'm going to say the 5-0 loss at Dallas in 1970. I love that team. Greg Landry, I loved him. And that was the team Lombardi was on, all-pro, cornerback, amazing player, unbelievable punt returner, one of the best I've ever seen. And that was a really difficult game to watch, losing by a field goal and a safety. 5-0, and I think I write in the book, again, get a look at my book, you'll love it. I don't believe it. We're good, the new Detroit Lions. You can get it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But in that book, I remember describing that our star running back was out for that game, Mel Farr. I had the fortune of meeting Mel Farr at a golf tournament one day before he died. And he said he absolutely felt that if he was healthy and would have played that game, the Lions would have won that game, and I believe him because he was a great running back. Number 8, Mike Utley being paralyzed in 1981. Very sad day. We knew it was a serious injury when we saw it, and he's been a very brave man over these years. God, I can't believe it's been over, that's 40 years, 45 years ago. That's a long time. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 1991, not 1981, 1991. So that's 35 years ago. He's probably about 60 years old now. And that is when Barry Sanders was playing on that team. And number 7, I'm going to go with Chuck Hughes dying on the field in 1971. 55 years ago, and again, right before my 16th birthday, I was at the game. And that was a pretty terrible, I don't believe it moment. Before I go tonight, I want to just say that, to be fair to Jinxy, it hasn't been all pain and torture. We've had some very exciting games to watch, Some great superstars to watch. Obviously, Barry Sanders being number one, probably Calvin Johnson number two. I'd put number three, Chris Spielman and Lem Barney. Alex Karras might be up there. Charlie Sanders would be up there. I love Charlie Sanders. He just an amazing receiver. Um, and so there was some great. I'm going to give you three really beautiful, joyous moments as a Lion fan. I got to do some of that. As I said, Barry Sanders going over 2,000 yards during that game that Reggie Brown had the medical crisis. How about the 23 and 2024 seasons when the Lions went 12-5 and then 15-2? That was a lot of fun. When we went 12-5, we won our first playoff game since 1991. Followed it up with another playoff win. We beat both the Rams and the Buccaneers that year to set us up for the NFC Championship at San Francisco. We know how that went. We were pretty disappointed with the result, although I have to say that that first half in San Francisco was as good a football as I've ever seen the Lions play. The second half was not so pretty. And they had some bad luck in the second half, too. Some crazy stuff happened. Balls bouncing off helmets that were caught by the 49ers and a few other things. Some drops of important fourth down passes. Anyway, the other one that was a great memory, a really highlight of Lion fans, was the 1991 win against the Dallas Cowboys at the Silverdome. Place went crazy. It was so loud, right? And then after that game, we went 32 years till 2023 in that Rams game in between playoff wins. So when you go 32 years without winning a playoff game, that's pretty brutal, fans. That's pretty brutal. But again, let's focus on the positive because we are now in year 6 this year of the Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes era and the Sheila Ford era. And there's a lot to be hopeful for. And I can't wait to see it get going in about a month with training camp. We got a lot of new people to look at. Pacheco, the new running back that's going to join Gibbs in the backfield. We're going to see how Laporta is doing after his back surgery last year. We got to see how Kirby Joseph is doing with that knee injury and how soon Brian Branch can come back from the Achilles tear. Our new right guard coming. I believe he came from Clemson, our first-round draft pick. He should be good, and how Penei Sewell does, moving over to the left tackle position. I love Jared Goff. He's one of my favorite players, and I've been predicting this for a while. It's going to come true in the next few years. He's going to be the MVP of the NFL. I have no question. This guy, a few years ago, you might remember, he went 18 for 18 in a game. Been many, many years since a quarterback was 100% completion rate. Not too easy to do. If you block for Jared Goff, he's going to win the MVP. I'm going to tell you, he's that good. I like Matt Stafford, but I think Goff is better. Anyway, we're going to see Lion fans, and I'll continue going over 3 tortured fan moments every podcast. Take a look at my first 3 podcasts now, and I'll see you next time.